Welcome back. After 467 days since Hamas unleashed its terror on Israel and after more than 46,000 lost their lives to the fighting in West Asia on both sides, and after multiple rounds of ground operations and truce talks, a ceasefire deal is finally in the pipeline. The deal, which is expected to be implemented in 3 phases, was approved by the Hamas on Wednesday. Israeli cabinet meeting, which was expected to approve it, though, has been delayed. But what exactly does the deal entail? We'll talk about that, but here's how the deal was brokered. After the 15-month-long fighting, this is how the deal came through. The deal was brokered by Qatar, Egypt, and United States. While Biden and Trump continue to trade barbs, claiming credit, it was Trump's envoy for Middle East who was involved in the negotiations, as per several reports. The deal was first agreed upon by Hamas, even as certain Israeli ministers opposed the deal, then finally agreed upon by Netanyahu, and the deal will be implemented in phases. So let's get to that. The first phase will last for 42 days, and during the course of this period, Hamas will release 33 hostages, including women, elderly, and the sick. In return, Israel will release 30 Palestinian prisoners for each hostage. Israel will also move its forces out of populated areas to the edge of Gaza borders, and the displaced Palestinians will begin returning home. Furthermore, more humanitarian aid will now begin to enter the Gaza Strip. The second phase will commence after 42 days, and the Hamas will begin releasing the remaining hostages, including men. Israel, however, is yet to announce the number of Palestinian prisoners that has been negotiated upon. This phase will also witness full withdrawal of Israeli forces from the Gaza Strip. And the final and the third phase will witness reconstruction of Gaza Strip, something that could take months to accomplish, and bodies of the remaining hostages will also have to be released in the final phase of this deal. While all of that has been put to the drawing board, and we're seeing this ceasefire deal come through after 467 long days, what is in it for the stakeholders concerned, and will Hamas or Israel, for that matter, buy this in complete honesty and also take it to the implementing stage? We'll talk about that in just a bit, but the reaction so far.
This has been a time of real turmoil in the Middle East. But as I prepare to leave office, our friends are strong, our enemies are weak.
What's going on in the Middle East, this would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
And quickly introducing our guest joining us this evening, Abishag Avinom, former media coordinator to Israeli Prime Minister, is with us to really take us through the Israeli perspective. Also with us is former diplomat Mr. Deepak Vora, and geopolitical analyst Madhav Nalapat completes the panel. A very good evening to you, gentlemen. And Avinom, I want to first begin with you. You know, several are asking, and we're just going by the host of reports that are coming in, celebrations taking place in Gaza. Everybody is seeing this as a real breakthrough after 15 long months. But the fact of the matter is that Netanyahu's held up the cabinet note. Why? And are we expecting a delay now? I think you're on mute. Could you please unmute yourself? Okay, no luck there.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, so good evening, first of all. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
The cabinet is right now on hold because these are the final stages of the deal. The deal is so-called sealed, but as we can learn from previous experience, Hamas usually towards the last days when they're supposed to execute their obligations of the deal, they are trying to gain more more requests and to change some critical clauses that were agreed upon in the deal itself. So that's why the cabinet, I'm assuming, is on hold at the moment until everything is being 100% clear that it will be happening starting on Sunday. So that's the reason why I think right now people are kind of letting Hamas take the lead on this position right now, because they were the ones who constantly trying to manipulate the agreements and agreed upon many things. And then, as I said, on the final stages, they changed their minds or they added different clauses to the deals. So I'm assuming that we are waiting right now for them to see if there will be any change of hearts on their behalf.
Okay, I do have a follow-up question, but I'll quickly go across to the gentleman as well. Mr. Deepak Vora, do you think in that sense, given what we've just heard from Avinoam, what we're tracking from Israel, the ceasefire still is in the grey area? We're not clearly seeing a black or white here.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Always a pleasure. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'm somewhere far away in central India in a tribal area, and you can see the connectivity here. And to my colleague from Israel, Pizzakon le Israel, victory to Israel. You are fighting for your survival. Ma'am, let me tell you very quickly, I've been ambassador to 6 countries, and I've seen this before in my career. Why are the Israelis fighting for their survival? They didn't run away from Germany and Europe, where they were being massacred by that mad fellow, to come here and then be killed by the Arabs and the Muslims who surround them. It's a matter of survival. Now, I do not see any meeting of ideologies or mindsets. On the one hand, Israel has no right to exist, say these clowns, whether it's Hamas or Hezbollah or the Iranians. On the other hand, where will they go? As far as Palestine is concerned, ma'am, nobody wants them. You know this as well as I do. Now, I've seen these peace deals. Forgive me, my dear colleague from Israel. I've seen this in Sudan, South Sudan. When I was ambassador 5 years, each peace deal would last for 1 month. And in South Sudan itself, where the 2 factions were fighting, the president and the vice president, and I participated in some of those negotiations, the ceasefire deal would last for 10 minutes before the ink was dry. I've seen this in Ethiopia, Eritrea, I've seen this in Zimbabwe, I've seen this in Angola. There is no trust. There's no goodwill. Everyone is trying to maneuver, in this case, Palestine, to get a better position to see what they can extract. I'm sorry to sound pessimistic, but unless there is a change of mindset, unless there is trust, this deal will go out the window and we'll be back to where we are. Interestingly, the Secretary of State of the United States says, and now that he's going to leave his office, that Hamas has recovered its strength, has as many people as it had before the invasion, and they've recovered everything, etc. And therefore, a political solution is the answer. Ma'am, forgive me, please forgive me. I haven't heard more arrant nonsense than this. What political solution? Do you accept the right of Israel to exist? If you don't, what solution will you have? I rest my case.
Okay, Mr. Vora, I'll come back to you in just a bit. Mr. Nalapat, another question that several stakeholders and key players here have had to answer, and they've not really come up with an answer, be it Netanyahu or Joe Biden, is that if Joe Biden, the outgoing US president, outlined or rather shared the outline of the ceasefire back in May 2024, why did we have to wait till now? Though we don't know in which direction this is headed, but why the long wait, and why right before his tenure ends is he wanting to now claim credit?
Look, I'm a bit surprised to hear Blinken say that this particular deal is going to create, not the deal, that what has happened, what has been done by the IDF in Gaza will create many more terrorists than they initially were on October 7th. Well, frankly, I don't think that's true. The population of Gaza is completely fed up of what it's been undergoing. And I think they understand that October 7 was the trigger for that. Now, we have nobody less than the deputy leader of the political wing of Hamas claiming that the October 7, I'm not talking about the peace deal, I'm talking about the October 7 terror attack, was a great victory for Hamas. A great, great victory. And the resistance will go on. In other words, more attacks will go on. Now, frankly, given that kind of somewhat incendiary comment, in case Prime Minister Netanyahu agrees to the deal as negotiated by the US, UAE, Egypt, and Qatar. Remember, Qatar is not trusted by the Netanyahu government. Al Jazeera has hardly been neutral during this conflict. Biden, frankly, has never had a good relationship with Netanyahu. And as for Egypt,
So he's not put to best use his leverage on Israel. That's what we can come up with. That's the one thing that we can sum up
given
this
that
past.
Trump is going to come soon, I don't think so.
Okay. Now, Abhinam, while you're leveling a certain allegations against Hamas, and we'll get to Hamas in just a bit and take that up once again with Professor Nalapat, with Mr. Nalapat, but here's what the Gaza Civil Defense says, and I want to quote this because they've reported that at least 73 Palestinians, including 20 children and 25 women, have been killed and more than 230 injured in Israeli attacks across Gaza since the announcement of the ceasefire. So that's their counter to what you've just said.
Look,
This for me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So I would not trust even a bit on Hamas ministry or this is very absurd to quote their, like you would not quote ISIS figures, right? You would not quote Al-Qaeda figures. So there is no reason to quote Hamas figures. There is already a research that been out there a few months ago of the Henry Jackson Society that debunked the numbers and shows hundreds, if not thousands, of names that put under the category of women and children, which are not correct, and names that are repeating themselves constantly with the same civil number. So I would not trust their number a bit. This is absolutely like I'm not even going to take it seriously, to be honest, because you cannot trust them in anything. You cannot trust them in their deals. You cannot trust them right now. That's why we are very skeptical about this deal. We are hopeful and hopefully, we are will be happy to see the hostages back. We are
and that's
eager
why we've
to
been
see
meaning
them
to
back.
understand why, despite the resistance that came in from a few Israeli ministers, the deal has seen the light of the day. That's what we were trying to understand clearly. But I want Mr. Vora and Mr. Nalapat to come in on this one question quickly before I wrap this up. Is that the best option before Israel in that sense? Because the fear is that though Hamas could have been weakened, it's never going to be eliminated. Mr. Vora first, yes.
You are so right, ma'am. But I ask a subsequent question, and Professor Nalapat, whose wisdom is infinitely greater than mine, would be able to respond. All right, I have a ceasefire deal. I've seen these pieces of paper. Then what? What will prevent them from attacking again? What will prevent another 7th October? Who's going to guarantee that? That wise old gentleman sitting in Washington who's going to lose his job in 4 days, or the incoming guy? Who's going to make sure that it doesn't happen again? I know that there were celebrations on 7th October, not just in Hamas, which claimed a great victory, but all across the Arab world. Ma'am, I have served maybe 20 years in that region. I understand their mentality backward. I feel sorry for my friends from Israel. They are there to keep it safe, to keep the world safe, ma'am. That's all that I ask.
Okay, thank you for that. Mr. Nalapat.
Let me just say that that in case the deal, as for example, publicly declared by the Hamas deputy leader or the political wing, in case the deal is signed by Prime Minister Netanyahu, it will mean the harakiri of his government. Now, frankly, I don't know any politician who would like to commit harakiri of his or her government for the sake of signing something that may just turn out to be a piece of paper, as the ambassador has been pointing out in the past. So quite frankly, this situation is, in my view, not really very conducive to what has
And while what you say, Mr. Nalapat, might just be the true, the fact is that the war in Gaza has had a devastating impact, and any end to that a cycle of violence is a welcome step. Whether or not this deal will see the light of the day remains to be seen. Thank you. That's all the time we have.